Hey, it is Tiki Technical Tuesday, and with the new year coming, it is time to start a new mug. That's right. And I have decided I'm not going to tell you right off the bat what the new mug is. I'm going to see if you can guess what it is as I sculpt it. But I will give you a hint. It is an homage mug. What is an homage mug? Well, an homage mug pays tribute to a classic of exotica cocktails, and we are looking at mugs that can either pay tribute to the cocktail itself. For example, the Jungle Bird cocktail. This mug I did, to highlight Mrs. VanTiki's favorite tiki drink, although it used to be her favorite. It's not her favorite anymore. So we can pay tribute to the cocktail. We can pay tribute to a classic mug, like the Bob mug, who some tiki archaeologists feel is the very first tiki mug ever made. Debatable, who knows, but I love the mug, it's iconic. That's, another route to pay tribute to a mug. Or you can pay tribute to both. For example, the zombie that I did, which pays tribute to the classic cocktail, as well as the amazing Ren Clark's Village severed head mug. If you have the Book of Tiki, you look it up. It's an incredible mug, very rare. So that's possible. So the only hint that I'm going to give you for the new mug is it's this type. It's paying tribute to both a classic cocktail and a classic mug. Not only are we kicking off 2021 with a new mug, we're kicking it off with a new clay. Now, as you recall, my mugs, as a rule, are sculpted in monster clay. So here we have the finished mug. Here is the clay sculpture, the original clay sculpture. And it was done in monster clay. It is a clay that I love to death. And for a long time, it was only available in kind of this terracotta brown color. Last year, or maybe a little past last year, they came out with a new color, which I was extremely excited about, kind of a medium gray. And I wanted to wait. I didn't want to jump in because I had a bunch of this stuff still. So I wanted to work my way through my existing clay and then see what people thought of the new clay. People think it's great. So it's my existing supply of monster clay has gotten very low, which meant it was time to place an order. I ordered a case of the medium gray, so that's 4 boxes, or I guess 4 bins of the medium gray, plus a hard one, just to test the difference. Monster clay is shipped in these great little plastic bins, and I love that they mark on the bin what firmness of the clay is, so that later, when you take that plastic lid off, you'll remember what this is. Now, this is very firm. In fact, even though it's labeled medium, it's pretty firm to work with, so I like to work up a sweat and chop this into little cubes so that I can warm it up under a heat lamp and make the clay much more workable. The heat lamp I have is just one of those cheap heat lamps you can get from any home improvement store, and I can slide it up and down on this pole to put more heat on the clay or less heat. Adjustable. Okay, so this brings us, now that the clay is warming up, to the only other hint that you're going to get as to what the new mug is going to be, and that hint is the armature. So the armature exists to hold the clay's shape while we are sculpting. The clay is a soft medium, so we want a firm understructure, just like your skeleton, to hold things together. Oh, looks like the clay's ready to go. Before sculpting, I had to quickly clean off the red monster clay from the tools to get ready for the new gray. Okay, the clay is soft, armature is ready. I put it onto this little piece of wood, and it's got some plastic on it, just because I want the clay to actually extend beyond the base of the armature. I know it's going to be a little bit bigger, and I don't want it to stick to this wood. I want to be able to pick this up as I'm sculpting it. That's the plan. Also, I get a ton of questions about this every time I post stories and whatnot that has this in it. This is called a laboratory jack stand. It is incredible. It is one of my favorite studio tools. I'm going to put a link to it in the description of this video. So if you want to get one for your own, I can't say how much I love this enough. It's been a game changer when working on sculptures. Anyway, let's get going. The initial sculpture always starts with just packing that clay onto the armature. I want to work all of the clay into the little pukas, Hawaiian word for the day, so that it just locks onto that wood. I'm just going to blob out the shape. This is the rough part of the whole process. Let's do it. Monster clay, as a rule, it's not a sticky clay. Like, you'll notice it's not getting on my fingers, which is something that I love about it. But the fact that it's not sticky is why you also want to make sure that you've got something that it can get a mechanical bond with on your armature, like all of these little pukas. You want it to be able to grip it so that as I build up the sculpture, it doesn't flake away or fall off. So what do I think of this new gray clay so far? Well, I can tell you that it is soft. I think that it is softer than the red version of this clay. So they're both labeled medium, but I do think the gray is softer. Now, it may be that my medium monster clay has been around so long that maybe it gets firmer through time. I don't know. But I will definitely be ordering some more cases of the hard version of this clay, and the next mug sculpture I do will be done in the hard version. This stuff is just very soft. Now, it looks super soft here because it's been heated up under the lamp. Keep that in mind. Once it cools off, it does firm up, but it's not quite as firm as I had hoped. This part of the sculpting, this blocking out, is all about proportions and mapping out the main kind of geographical areas of the mug, because this is the bones of the sculpture. You want to get it right now instead of having to adjust big, massive shapes later. Okay, well, we are cruising right along. I have got the form blocked out. I call this is the blocking out stage. We're just making the rough shapes, just getting the rough form of the mug built up, and it goes fast. Blocking out moves very quickly. In fact, it moves so quickly that I'm gonna have to take a little bit of a pause right now. I've packed a ton of monster clay onto this armature, and the monster clay, we've warmed it up under the heat lamp, so it's very, very pliable, very soft. It's a joy to work with. Look at this, nice and malleable, and yet it's not sticking to my fingers. Now the downside is we've got it heated up and we've got a big block of it here, and it's just a bit too soft, like it moves around a bit. So now that I've got the general form figured out, I'm just gonna let this rest for a little bit and firm up and really just kind of lock onto that armature that's underneath here. And then I can start dialing this thing in. Now, we're not even close to the detail stage, any of that. We've got the main form in, and now we're gonna start to refine that main form and find the true shape of the mug that I've got planned. Now, full disclosure, I do have a sketch here that I'm looking at. I've got some plan view drawings that I've done of this mug, but I'm not gonna show those to you yet because I want this to, be a surprise. Anyway, back to work. Hey, it is day 2 of the new mug sculpting adventure. Yesterday, we primarily just used these tools, the fingers, along with, I occasionally went in with this blaster knife, just to refine. We were just blocking things out yesterday. Today, we're gonna continue to refine shapes. A lot of today is going to be about using rakes and rasps. First up, we have rakes. Rakes are sculpting tools that have these serrated edges, these tiny little teeth, and they are fantastic for refining surface planes of your sculpture by raking away the clay. So in addition to these dedicated sculpting tools, I also like to use some non-traditional tools that I find in perhaps the kitchen department, like kitchen tools. And one of my favorite tools is a rasp. Well, I guess it's a plane technically. This thing started out as a woodworking tool and it made its way into kitchens, and I am talking about this, the microplane. I use both the flat and the round microplane in the studio. They are amazing tools for quickly refining smooth, flat areas of your sculpture. The round tool can reach into hard to reach areas. And I mean, look at that. It's incredible. Easy to clean. Just clean it out in the back and chuck it back into the bin. Here's a little time lapse of day 2's progress. As you can see, still kind of just mapping out the main geography of the mug. If you haven't figured out yet just what the subject matter is, don't worry. It's really kind of something only Tiki mug collectors would recognize. Okay, it's getting towards the end of the day, and I'm at a good stopping point. I'm getting into a lot of like puzzle areas now that I've got the main form blocked out, that I've got to kind of solve all these little form puzzles that I need to solve. Yes, I have a drawing, a concept drawing that I'm working off of, and I did plan views like a top view and a side view, but those are still 2D drawings, and things change when you jump to 3 dimensions. So lots of little odd things I want to figure out, just getting the proportions dialed in. Overall, though, super happy with where we're going. I am in love with the new gray clay. It's much easier on my eyes, staring at this thing all day long. Anyway, I think we're going to call it for today, and we will hop back onto the sculpture tomorrow. Alrighty, it is Thursday morning and we are back at it. Now, I'm only going to be doing a half day of sculpting today, not because it is New Year's Eve, but because this afternoon I've got to do some design work on another project. So I'm going to just dive in and get as much done as I possibly can this morning. The first thing I'm going to tackle is this. This little bit of armature right here is kind of messing with me. Now, this is the danger of armatures when you plan an armature out. I base this armature on my sketches, but I'm changing the proportions of this a little bit, and unfortunately, I'm running into this block of wood. So we're going to do a little bit of armature surgery. My weapon of choice for armature surgery is this little Dremel vibrating saw. It's like the one that they use in doctors' offices to cut casts off. It goes in there really nice without a big spinning blade, so you can do very precise cuts without, ruining a bunch of stuff. All right, I've got the armature out of the way, and the rest of the day is just spent focusing on the nitty-gritty work of making your tool marks disappear, making all these little holes disappear, making all my fingerprints disappear. It is slow and tedious, and it's the exact opposite of that really fast starting day where we were blocking out the shape. This takes some time. So thank God for time lapse. All right, well, it is lunchtime, and that means that for today, it's stop time. After lunch, I'm going to hop back into the house and do design work. So I'm happy with where we got. I've worked out some issues that I was not happy with, or just I was not sure how I was going to figure out. I think it's looking really cool so far. I don't know if you've guessed what it is or not. I don't know. It's getting there, though. It's getting there. Tomorrow we are going to be printing New Year's cards, so I won't be able to sculpt tomorrow. Monday, though, solid Monday, and we are going to get this tight on Monday. Alrighty, it is Monday. It is the last day I have to get sculpting done on this before the release of Tiki Technical Tuesday. Now, to kick off the Monday in proper style, I turned on my heat lamp and the bulb burned out. So first thing I'm doing today is dashing to the hardware store to get a new lamp, and then we are going to sculpt like mad to get as much detail as I can on this guy before the end of the day. Okay, the clay has warmed up, and these goggles mean it is time for detail business. Today is all about getting the tiny, tiny little bits all sorted out, get that surface perfect before we apply texture. I'd like to have a smooth surface before texturing, and I am going to achieve that through several means, mostly through a Scotch-Brite pad and a little bit of alcohol to kind of lubricate the surface and clean things up. I used alcohol instead of water because I like that it evaporates away instead of making a giant puddle of water on my work table. And as you can see, it's pretty effective to just sand down the surface of this monster clay and get rid of those tiny little rake marks. Okay, so there's no like magic bullet or fast track to getting a super smooth surface. The only way to do it is to just put a lot of time into it and work in increments. You don't want to go, just like when you're sanding wood, you don't go from like 80 grit to 1000 grit. You've got to do all the in-between steps. This, using the alcohol with the sponge, is only one step of many that I'm going to try. There are other ways to do it. You can use a solvent like mineral spirits. You can use a torch and melt the surface of the clay. We're probably going to be doing all of those techniques and maybe even more to get to our final surface. But like I said, this is not it. This is just the start. But I'm happy with where we're going, and I think we're ready to maybe start thinking about texturing and getting this to look like an old, busted piece of stone. Hello everyone, my name is Henrik van Ryzen, and I am addicted to sculpting cracks in clay. I absolutely love it. I find myself staring at sidewalk cracks, cracks in the road, cracks in mountain faces, and thinking, how can I work that into a sculpture later? Once I've got the general structure of the cracks planned out, I will then go and sand them back with the Scotch-Brite and alcohol and, kind of check where I'm at. I might add some more cracks. I might fill some in. I want to keep it looking natural. I mean, obviously these are sculpted cracks and they're stylized and, this is not a real rock, but I like to try to find a happy balance between, stylized, fun-looking sculpture and actual real-looking cracks. All right, it is 3:30, time for me to wrap it up for the day. Is the sculpture finished? No, but it's getting really close. Close enough for me to introduce you all to the dead bastard. It is my homage to the classic Tiki mug, the Suffering Bastard, and the classic Tiki cocktail, the Suffering Bastard. Mine is a dead bastard. Perhaps it's had one too many. Perhaps it's just been a really rough year. I'll let you interpret it. I still have some more sculpting to do on this. I want to refine some details. I still got tool marks. I mean, it's really the slowest part, and I do have to refine the tongue, which is a weird thing to say. But yes, still lots of just the little itty-bitty detail work that takes forever. But I'm really happy with this guy. If you're wondering how this is a mug, the opening will be here. This will be open, so you'll put the straw in, you'll drink out of its mouth. And I also have the little bit of okole showing, which I love the Suffering Bastard mug because it's got a little bit of a butt. So I had to include that on my dead bastard. So there it is. The classic Suffering Bastard is one of my favorite classic mug designs, and I wanted to play with the idea of what if it just fell back and died? What would it look like? And then on top of that, what would the challenges be of making this an actual functional, usable mug that you could fill with rum, drink from, clean, and enjoy? In the end, I am really happy with how closely I was able to get the clay to match my initial concept sketch. So there you have it. Thank you for hanging out on this Tuesday and watching the dead bastard take shape. I am hoping to wrap this sculpture up this week. We start casting tomorrow on the final volcanic vapor mugs. We're going to have a fancy white top and bottom on that final 50 castings. And that'll leave me the afternoons to finish up this sculpture. And then we put a mold on it. Hopefully mold start next week. Anyway, thanks for hanging out on this first Tiki Technical Tuesday of 2021. I will see you next week.